Most logical men have boring conversations that sound like interviews and don't lead anywhere. And I know because I was one of them. My name is Marco and I'm an engineer who went from being terrible with women to going on 2 dates a week while working as team leader for an aerospace company. Since then, I've helped logical men go on multiple dates per week and find the right woman. And in this video, I'll show you how to turn your logical conversations into playful ones that make women excited to go on a date with you. It's gonna be insanely tactical, let's get right into it. Alright, welcome to this Flirt Masterclass. This is exactly what we'll see today. Why do you need to flirt in the first place? How I accidentally discovered flirting? What exactly is flirting? I will give you here my definition because a lot of people think that flirting is about giving compliments, but there's actually way more to that. We will see some flirting models, and I will give you some flirting templates that you can take and implement right away in your conversations. I will also give you some examples. And finally, we will see some common flirting mistakes so that you can avoid making them in the first place. Cool. Why do you need to flirt? Do any of these sound familiar? I see you more as a friend. I didn't feel a connection. I didn't feel that spark. I didn't feel any romantic interest. Or sometimes maybe you even go on a first date and you think that the date went well, but by the end of the evening you receive one of these infamous messages, or you try to send a message and you get ghosted. Not fun. This could happen for different reasons, but one of the main recurrent ones is you haven't established that romantic connection in the first place. And one of the main components to that is flirting, meaning either you haven't flirted at all, or you haven't flirted enough, or you haven't flirted the right way. And so let's fix this once and for good. How did I discover flirting in the first place? Well, it actually happened accidentally. This big fella that you see here on the stage is me. I was on a stage in an improvisational comedy show. I started doing improvisational comedy some time ago, and I remember this moment that really stuck with me and helped me understand what flirt truly is about. The director picked me and a very attractive girl, actually, and he put us both on a stage, and we had to do this exercise where each of us could only say one sentence at a time. And so I was saying one sentence, and then this girl was saying one sentence, and so on and so forth. And after a little bit of back and forth, she came up with something really interesting. She said, "Do you love me?" And at that point in time, in a fraction of a second, obviously I had to reply. And instead of saying yes, or instead of saying no, I said maybe. And this is truly the essence of flirt. Because I didn't give a precise answer to that. I didn't give a clear answer to that. Instead, what I chose to do is I chose to play with it. And most importantly, I chose uncertainty over certainty. And we will see in a second why this is very crucial. So, what exactly is flirting? Here's my definition. Flirting is a playful form of communication which suggests that a sexual encounter could potentially happen. Now, there are three elements to this definition: playful, sexual, and potentially. Let's see them one after the other so that you can truly understand what flirting is about. First off, we're talking about something sexual, something intimate. This is the idea. But there's way more to that. It's a form of communication that needs to be playful. This is crucial. It doesn't have to be serious, it has to be playful. And finally, there's a third component to that, which is the potential. Flirt is subtle. It's not obvious. And this is exactly why maybe worked exceptionally well in this case. And when I said this, I literally saw the eyes of this girl light up in a fraction of a second because I got it. This is literally what flirting is about. Cool. So, long story short, we have this definition of flirting. Let's see. I will show you right now some examples, and then you will tell me if those examples are examples of flirting or not flirting. So let's jump right into it. Remember these three elements. Is this flirting? I work as a consultant. You can pause this video if you watch it and then think for yourself and then come back to that. So is this flirting? Well, is this somehow intimate or sexual? Not really, right? So in any case, the definition is, let's say, broken. Obviously, it's not subtle at all, and it's also not playful. So, not really. What about I love you? Is this flirting? Again, think about the definition. Well, is it intimate or sexual? Yeah, right, because I'm conveying my romantic interest. However, is it subtle? Definitely not. I'm literally saying, hey, I love you. Also, is it playful? Not particularly. I'm probably being quite serious, right? So is this flirting? No. What about this? You have beautiful eyes. Some of you might say we're getting closer, right? Is it intimate / sexual? It definitely is. However, is it subtle? Well, it's a little bit subtler than I love you, but it's still not that subtle, right? And in any case, it's not particularly playful, it's just a compliment. Now, you could argue that depending on how you say that, depending on the delivery, it could be a little bit more flirty, fair enough, but still, I wouldn't consider this a good example of flirting. What about this? I like your smile, but there's something about your eyes that doesn't fully convince me. Is this flirting? If your answer is yes, my man. Is it intimate / sexual? Well, it definitely is, right? Because I'm alluding to some things like her smile, her eyes, so I'm definitely conveying this romantic interest. First of all, is it playful? Yeah, because I'm playing a little bit. And as I said, it's also subtle. Why is it subtle? Well, because I'm saying I like your smile, but there's something about your eyes that doesn't fully convince me. So again, I am thriving with this uncertainty that I was talking about before. I'm not saying something like 100% clear. I'm not saying like I love you. I'm not saying like, hey, you have beautiful eyes. I'm saying, well, there's something about this that I'm drawn towards, but at the same time, this thing it doesn't fully convince me. And this is exactly what flirting is about. All right, now let's talk about flirting models. And let's be a little bit more structured about this. Flirting model number one is the push-pull. Maybe you've already heard this somewhere. Push-pull is when you combine a positive with a negative. Let's see some examples. A part of me loves you, a part of me hates you. Here you're literally saying, hey, there's something about you, like I like something about you, but at the same time, I'm not, fully bought in. I don't really know if we can get along. I think we can get along, but I'm not sure. You are cooler than I expected you to be. If you think about this is sort of a temporal push-pull. So you're saying, hey, I didn't expect you actually to be so cool, but I was surprised in the end. You are trouble. Trouble is one of those intrinsic kind of like push-pull words because it has both a positive and a slightly negative connotation because it's associated with something that generally is not super pleasant, but at the same time it has this risky element, and we both know that when you're saying risk, a risk could be a risk, but it could also be an opportunity. So there's always like two sides to that. All right, another one is tease. This is by far one of my favorite. When you are teasing, you are giving someone a hard time, but in a playful way. Again, remember the playful component. Let's see some examples. If she's a teacher, you can say, poor students, I can see them suffering already. Now, look how this, by the way, is way, way, way more interesting with respect to what 99% of guys would say in such a scenario. When they're having a conversation with someone, she's like, what do you do? I'm a teacher. They would probably say something like, oh, interesting. What do you teach? Or, oh, that's cool. And then they would move to a completely separate, topic, running out of things to say. Or maybe they would say, oh, my cousin is a teacher as well, blah, blah, blah. See the difference, right? This is way more interesting. And it steers the conversation in a direction that is way, way, way more fun. Cool. What about if she's a lawyer, for example? You could probably say something like, so I'm probably one sentence away from a lawsuit. Good to know. Or what if she looks thoughtful? This happened to me some time ago. I was around and I saw someone that clearly looked quite lost. She was a tourist and she didn't exactly know, where to go. And then I said, like, you have the most adorably lost look I've ever seen. So again, this is fun. You're playfully teasing her, and she, obviously, she smiled, she responded, she started laughing, giggling, and she responded very, very positively. Cool. Let's talk about another flirting model, which is the challenge. Let's see how you can do it. For example, she flies to Norway. You could say something like, oh, I'm flying there in a month. Who takes the best pictures of the Northern Lights wins a drink. If she goes to the gym, sorry about that. If she goes to the gym, you could say, all right, ready for a do or die pull-up challenge? Another one, and this is by far one of my favorites, is exaggeration. What are we talking about when we say exaggeration? What an exaggeration does is it expands on something until this thing becomes absurd. For example, if she loves fashion, you could say, I bet you're one of those women having 12 wardrobes per season. Now, it's clear that nobody on planet Earth has 12 wardrobes per season, right? But still, the fact that you mentioned that, the fact that you put this out there, and it's hilarious, right? And so if you want, this is kind of like a subcategory of thesis, and it's incredibly playful, incredibly hilarious, and a lot of fun. Another one is if she likes going to clubs, so you could say, yeah, I can already see you dancing on the tables and getting kicked out by the bouncer at some point of the evening. So, cool. This is even subtler, misinterpretation or role reversal. Now I'm gonna put these, let's say, in one category, and you will see why in a second. This is when you voluntarily misinterpret something that she says. So you understand, I want to make this point clear, you understand very well what she's saying, you just choose to misinterpret that because the message that you convey is, hey, I'm not here to have a boring platonic conversation, I'm actually here because I want to have fun with you, I want to have a playful conversation. Again, remember the definition. What about role reversal? Well, what role reversal does is it implies that she is the one hitting on you. What's interesting about role reversal is that in the traditional dating dynamics is the guy hitting, quote unquote, on the girl. But what you are doing when you are, let's say, using role reversal is you're implying that she's the one trying to win you over. She's the one trying to hit on you in the first place. Let's see some examples. Let's say you have a conversation with her, then at some point she forgets about what she was saying. And you say, well, you know, I can be distracting. So what you're doing here is you're basically implying that it's because of you that she forgot what she was saying. It's because you are incredibly attractive, for example. What about if she wants to go home? So let's say you guys, you meet someone and then you guys have this conversation for a little bit. And then at some point she says, it was nice to meet you, but I want to go home right now, or I have to go home right now. And you say, well, I appreciate the interest, but, we just met. I would prefer to take it, a little slower. Now, obviously, you know that when she says, I'm going to go home, she implies I'm going to go home by myself. But you voluntarily choose to misinterpret that and to allude to the fact that she's kind of like asking you to go home with her. Sarcastic answer. A lot of guys don't use answers enough. Whenever you are asked a question, and this, by the way, we could talk like 2 hours just about answering questions the right way. But I want to mention this because this is very, very important. They don't use their answers enough. They don't have interesting answers to the question that they get asked. And so this is crucial. Whenever you get asked a question, always remember this is an incredible opportunity that you have in the conversation to really convey your personality, convey some cool and unique things about you. So use questions a lot. Now, specifically, one of the ways that you have to reply to a question is being sarcastic. This is when you answer the question in a hilarious way. Let's see some examples. Let's say she asks about your hobbies, and you say, well, nothing special. I keep myself busy with some occasional kidnapping. You wouldn't believe the market out there for blondies like you. Now, obviously, this is fun. It's hilarious. Is it a little bit weird? Probably yes. But if you deliver that in a playful way, obviously she's going to start laughing. She's going to start saying, hey, I cannot believe that you said something like that. And compare this with the usual answer. I go to the gym. I go running once or twice per week. Night and day, right? Are you a dog or a cat person? If you've ever been asked this question during a first date, well, I like crocodiles. They are so cute when they smile with their teeth. Notice that here, does this make sense? Probably not a lot, right? But again, it's about the message. It's about the implication. It's about the sub-communication there. It's about you saying and stating in a very, let's say, subtle way, hey, I'm not here to have a boring conversation with you. I'm here to be playful. I'm here to have fun. Cool. Important note. All these techniques, all these models that we talked about so far have one element in common, which is they made the conversation about her or about you and her. So about the dynamics between you and her. This is very, very important because you cannot flirt if you keep the conversation about something external to this. So if you're talking about a building, for example, you cannot make a tease on the building. You cannot make an exaggeration on the building. All these things are things that you can do only about her or about the dynamics between you and her. For example, if you say something along the lines of, I'm not sure if we can get along, this is still a form of a flirt, as we saw before, because you're like, well, maybe there is the chance that we can get along, but maybe there is not. So the definition is still met, let's say, and it's about you and her. But if you're talking about something external, you cannot flirt. And this is important because a lot of guys find themselves stuck in these conversations where they end up spending 30 minutes talking about the weather or talking about something that maybe is even interesting to both the people, but it doesn't allow to flirt in the first place because, again, you're not making a conversation about her or about you and her. Cool. Let's see now now that we've seen some models, let's see specifically some flirting templates and some examples. By the way, if you found this video useful so far, you will probably love my dating course. This is a free course where I break down step by step the exact proven system my clients have been using to go on multiple dates per week and ultimately find the right woman. So if you're interested in having a systematic approach to dating that actually gets you results, definitely check that out. You find the course inside my school community. The community is 100% free at the current time, but that might change soon. So if you're interested in that, check it out now. So you're one of those people, you're one of those girls that. So you're the kind of girl, kind of person that. Are you the kind of girl, kind of person that? This is something that, it's a sentence that you can use. And whenever you're using that, it's way, way, way easier to come up with teases on the spot. Let's see some examples. If she's a language teacher, for example, you say, so you're the kind of person who takes pride in correcting other people's grammar all the time. Notice how I've used this template, right? So you're the kind of person that, you're the kind of person who, you're the kind of girl that, and so on and so forth. If she's sporty, you could say, are you one of those girls who wakes up at 4 a.m. to go running and has 3 protein shakes per day? Again, I'm using the format, are you the kind of girl, are you the kind of person that? You definitely have to, you must. If she loves shopping, for example, you definitely have to show me your wardrobe. I bet that's half of your apartment. If she plays piano, you must be your neighbor's worst nightmare on a Sunday morning. Are you X or are you Y? Are you X or Y? This works really, really well, especially when X or Y are opposite scenarios, and even better when they are opposite exaggerated or stereotypical scenarios. For example, if she's a teacher, you could say, are you the sweet teacher kids worship or the strict one that keeps them in line? And so what you're doing here, you're basically, defining these two opposite categories. One is the type of teacher that everybody loves, and then the other one is the type of teacher that instead is very, very strict and is very, very, that keeps them in line, that keeps them in fear, so to speak. And you're basically saying, which one are you? Are you this or are you that? If she's a lawyer, you could say, are you the Harvey Specter kind of lawyer or are you the Louis Litt one? Now, this is a reference to Suit. So whenever you make a reference, by the way, always make sure that you have common ground. But this is a quite popular TV series, so you probably heard of that. And what you're doing here is you're using, again, stereotypes. You're in this case specifically, you're using characters that have a very, very unique and well-defined qualities. And so you're saying, are you more like this or are you more like that? If she travels to Iceland, you could say, are you the savage volcano hiker or are you the lazy girl into creams and thermal braces? Again, Iceland is known for these two things, right? A lot of people go to Iceland because they're very sporty and they like hiking volcanoes and they like the nature and stuff like that. But you also find people that are super lazy. They just go there because they just want to chill, and they just want to cover their face in like these thermal creams and so on and so forth. So again, it's something like you can find these two sort of stereotypes and you can play with those. Tell me that you promise me you. If she travels to Iceland, again, promise me you won't fall into a geyser. I won't be there to rescue you. Notice, by the way, how this is a very, very interesting frame, which is the protector frame. So whenever you are suggesting the fact that you protect her or you defend her or you will step up for her, this is very, very attractive because it puts you in a position of, let's say, not only power, but also taking care of the other person. If she's a teacher, promise me that you won't correct every grammar mistake I make. So again, we've used these templates, these formats. You guys or you girls are blah, blah, blah. If she's a lawyer, you guys are the craziest people, the most hardworking in the day, but you go savage with the parties in the night. I hate you guys, very similar to the previous one. If she works in marketing, I hate you guys. It's always because of those ads I end up stuffing my house with things I don't even need. So again, notice how interesting these answers are, and they are probably very, very far away from the type of answers that you're used to give in your conversations. You're officially mine. Let's say that, you talk with her a little bit and you find out she's traveling a lot and you're like, you're officially my tourist guide for 2026. I can totally see, I can totally image, I can totally picture, blah, blah, blah. If she's into fitness, yeah, I can totally see you being the fitness influencer posting what I eat in a day to stay shredded all year round. Cool. Important note. You can tease on anything. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking about you, viewer behind the camera, have no excuses. You can tease about anything. So don't come up to me and tell me, hey, we actually had a boring conversation. She didn't give me anything to work with. I don't believe you. You can tease about anything. The things she says, the way she says them, her intention, her body language, or the fact that she said one thing instead of something different. So you can call out everything she does that is not, that is a little bit unique, a little bit weird. So there's literally an endless amount of things that you have in your arsenal that you can tease on. Cool. Now let's talk about common flirting mistakes and how to avoid them. First of all, if this is not you, this is important because a lot of guys come to me sometimes and they tell me, Marco, I get that I should flirt more, but this is not really who I am, And if that's about, if your understanding of flirting, a lot of people talking about using lines or manipulative techniques. If that is the case, I agree with you. You definitely shouldn't become someone that you are not. But if you have really gone, deep in this content so far, you probably understood that this is not what this is about, right? We're not manipulating anyone. We are just having playful conversations that, by the way, also allow you to create that romantic interest in the first place. And so if this is the case, and despite that, you say, hey, I don't really think this is me, I have bad news for you. If this is not you, then you will also not be the person who gets dates. Real talk here, Which leads me to the next point. Take risks or rot in the friend zone. Everything that you've seen here is potentially a little bit risky because you are steering the conversation away from the normal chit-chat that you're probably used to having. And so you might say, well, Marco, I'm not sure if I should take that risk, right? Because I risk a potential rejection. If you don't do this, if you don't take risks in the conversation, you're going to be stuck with a very boring and platonic conversation that will lead nowhere. And so not only, taking risk will help, but taking risk is a must. You must do that in your conversations if you're interested in actually, going on dates and ultimately find the right woman. So take risks or rot in the friend zone. I want this to be 100% clear. Delivery is important. This is very, very important because a lot of guys, when they start learning about this stuff, maybe they have a couple of lines in mind, or they do a couple of they say a couple of like flirty sentences, but their eye contact is off, or they don't deliver them in a playful way. They just like, part of me loves you, a part of me hates you. Or it's like, you are trouble. Like, how creepy is that, right? So your delivery needs to fit the type of sentence that you are saying, let's say. And so being playful, not only in the content of what you're saying, but also in your delivery is extremely, extremely important. Also, focus on having fun versus checking if it worked. It's not a matter of working. What you say doesn't really matter that much, as we discussed before. So don't be the guy that, cracks that tries flirt, and then tries to say something flirting, and then immediately looks at the other person and says, like, with this look like, did it work? Did it work? Don't be that, guys, for the love of God. So just focus on having fun, focus on just dropping, some flirt here and there. This is how you should think about these things. Also, what if she doesn't like it? What if she doesn't like flirting? Let me bust another myth. Women love flirting. And whoever tells you the opposite is a moron. So use flirting. Have fun with it. Be playful. I promise you, this will get you so much attraction from women. I can tell you right away, there was a phase of my life where I wasn't so, let's say, hard on working on, for example, my appearance. I wasn't taking care of my style as much. I wasn't taking care of, my haircut, my grooming as much as I do today. I was still getting dates, and I was still getting women attracted to me in the first place. And one of the main reasons, if not the main ones, is that I became exceptionally good at flirting. So I'm telling you, this guy is like, use it. Take advantage of it. The ratio flirty to non-flirty communication is also important. You're probably wondering, okay, Marco, I get at this stage that I need to flirt, and I also have a little bit of an idea on how to do that, but should I flirt all the time, or what is the ratio of flirty versus non-flirty communication that I should implement, right? And so I'm not really a fan of giving you like percentages because of multiple reasons. Number one is it also depends on the type of on the girl that you're speaking to, right? I said every girl loves flirt, and this is a fact. However, some girls love it way more than others, and they tend to have way more flirty conversations than others. And so, understanding, also your audience, so to speak, is something that will play a role into that. It will also change. A little bit with your experience level. So what I encourage you to do at this stage, especially if you're not very familiar with flirting, is try to use it more and more and more in your conversations. And then you will get to a point in which you are using that maybe a little bit too much, and your conversations tend to become a little bit too catchy, a little bit too gimmicky all the time. And in that case, you're always in time to just pull back a little bit. But you cannot, let's say you need to find this limit, so to speak. And this is something that you continuously have to tax, especially if you're a beginner. It's okay if you go a little bit overboard at the very beginning. And I would actually encourage you to do so because, again, you need to familiarize yourself with that. It's kind of the same thing. If you're a gym guy, you get this, like, if you never pushed your reps to failure, to complete failure, when you're not able to lift the barbell anymore, you don't know where that threshold is, right? So you want to get there because you want to have that knowledge for yourself, that awareness in place. All right, I hope you took some notes. And by the way, if you want me to share this presentation with you, you can text me the word flirt on Instagram and I will send it to you right away 100% for free. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you don't want to miss out on videos like this that I post every single week. And I've also recently created a course where I reveal the exact step-by-step system that my clients have been using to go on multiple dates per week and ultimately find the right woman. So if you're interested in having a more systematic approach to dating, definitely check that out. The course is 100% for free at the current time, but that might change soon. So check it out and I'll see you in the next video.